What's up, my friends? I got to give a quick shout out to the Twitter algorithms for bringing us together today because I got a new friend. His name is Agatanahi Uktena, and we have a lot to talk about today. And let's just get right into it. So, my friend, you are a first time guest on the Local Listens podcast. I want to thank you very much for coming on. And as a ritual first question, I've got to ask you, man, you got a lot of cool content on Twitter and you've got some stuff available on Gumroad, but before we get into that, just let us know, man. When did you start to speak your truth?
Well, first, thank you for having me. You got the name right. That's not often something that happens on the
Took a lot
first
of
time, so I
practice.
appreciate. No, I'm very grateful for the universe bringing us together. Um, as far as when I started to speak my truth, um, as far back as I can remember, I think I was speaking some version of truth. As far as like being awake or conscious of what's going on around me and speaking about it, I would say, at least verified from my mom. Like I said, I pretty much came out the womb questioning things, asking questions. She said I started reading by like two, and always like just challenging my teachers and the theologians that I would come across. Like, so I've always been like this. But most recently on Twitter, I joined Twitter in 2019. And I guess you could say I started speaking a version of truth in 2019, right before the pandemic hit.
Right on, man. Yeah, on Twitter, you've got a lot of interesting things. Just for people who want to check you out, where can they find you on Twitter? I know you've got Chief in the beginning of your Twitter handle. It's pretty cool, man. But yeah, tell us where can people connect with you?
Mostly is on Twitter. Chief Agatanahi Uktena. Um, I think that maybe this would be spelled out
Yeah,
on
I'll
the
put a
YouTube.
link in the description for sure.
Okay, I got a YouTube. I've been procrastinating on that. Typical, at least of me and some other people I've talked to on their journey, they kind of feel not sure if there's a space for them. So I have the YouTube, but I'm not sure if that's the form that I'm meant to communicate,
Mm.
or maybe I just do tweets and put out products and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it's mostly on Twitter.
Right on, man. And I'm looking at your Twitter and there's a link to there's the link tree, but you've got a Gumroad page. And I want to ask you a couple things about the products that you offer. Because first of all, you
Okay.
have your bio, you describe yourself as a cosmobiologist, which is awesome. I've never heard of that before. Saying that you're here to guide lost souls trying to remember their journey home or their way home. Do you want to speak on that a bit before we talk about the specific products that you offer and the services that you've been putting out?
Absolutely. In one way, shape, or form, I feel as if most people are looking for answers to their questions, like soul questions, you know. And I found that the best way to answer these questions is through astrology. So that's really what a cosmobiologist is, because I delve into medical astrology, which basically tells you what your uh, the potential is for you to experience certain phenomenon in your body. Um, it shows you what your karma is in regards to your body. This is the suit. This is the vehicle that we've inherited to make our journey back home to experience certain things. So I just like using cosmobiologists because man, you're on Twitter. You can see some of this astrology Twitter is bogus, and I
Hmm.
try to just separate myself as much as I can. You know, when people ask like, "Hey, what is that?" I get to say, "Hey, I'm talking about astrology or medical astrology or karmic astrology." You know, and then people who know, they know. You know, most people are not going to use that term unless they've done some study. You get what I'm saying?
Right on. Yeah, man. It's kind of funny that, UFO Twitter and astrology Twitter have a lot in common because there's a lot of BS on both sides. And, it's hard you got to
Right.
really sift through to find what's actually going on. And, let's talk about medical astrology really quick because I have a very basic understanding. And I know, for example, so my mother and I are both Taurus. We have a Taurus sun sign. And I know that Taurus is
Okay.
very much associated with the throat. And my mom has always grown up with thyroid issues. So I've taken a close look at my diet and I figured out what to avoid and other habits that will protect my thyroid because I'm assuming it's kind of vulnerable. Is there anything to that, my friend?
Surprise, I'm a tropical Taurus as well.
Nice.
Most people who have that sun sign, they do. Well, okay, so I want to be clear when I'm talking about this. So you have your basic sun sign, but you can't say that because I have this sun sign, I'm going to experience X. You have
Right.
to, especially with medical astrology, you have to consider the aspects. You got to consider the house, all of that type of stuff. So if your mother or you have thyroid issues, I would imagine you have some type of aspect to Mars or Saturn in some way, and probably an opposition or square. It's just a challenge. So I'm going to assume that in your chart in a past life you probably uh, lived a life of excess, and now you're here to kind of taper that in. So that's how I normally read that. But of course, with astrology, you have to consider the whole chart.
Yeah, that's a very excellent point, and it would be funny to consider in a past existence I was very much a glutton and then now I'm here to eat some humble pie. So it's good to be back, I guess. But I want to ask you there's a number of things that you talk about on your Twitter, and I was curious, other than astrology, do you also enjoy talking about numerology? And if so, is there anything you want to let people know about numerology if they're not familiar, and maybe like they've heard of a life path number, things like that? How would you like to introduce that topic?
Numerology. Once you study any, okay, let's start here. That is a divination system. Um, no matter what divination system you choose to use, whether it be runes, the tarot cards, astrology, um, reading tea leaves, whatever, you're even the I Ching, you're going to see that the basis of it is numerology. And so numerology has two main schools. Most people know about the Pythagorean system. I'm more of a fan of the Chaldean system, but basic numerology is going to tell you different things. So when you talk about a life path, you're just talking about basically your map. But when you break down, because I think this is something that gets lost in numerology, is just the life path. But there's a lot of numbers in your numerology chart as well. So when you talk about the life path, you're just talking about your path, your map. Like, what are you here? What route are you supposed to take? But you also need to consider the day that you're born, and that's probably going to give you a better indicator of the tools that you have been gifted to navigate your path. But it's really just a navigation system. I mean, a divination system. What I tell people is don't get lost in that. Don't get lost in any type of divination system because at the end of the day, you have to evolve. And so, whatever system you have decided to use to evolve, just use it to the max. I see a lot of people that get into, and it's common, and I actually don't get as annoyed as I used to before because I get it now.
Mm,
But people are taking, I call it Frankenstein metaphysics,
nice.
where what they do is they take bits and pieces from all these systems and they try to apply this to help them evolve. When you do it that way, you don't get the complete
Mm.
meaning and you don't get all of the experiences that you're supposed to get.
Because you're taking a
So
bunch of fragments of all these different systems, putting them together to form your identity. It's like creating Frankenstein's monster. It's like an incomplete picture, just all these different fragments, right?
exactly, and to take it another level, you're the only person giving it life. Like when you
Mm,
talk about Frankenstein, he had to be given life. The Frankenstein monster, I'll say, it's only going to work for you because you're putting life into that. But you have these other systems; they are holistic systems. So when you go from system to system, the perfect example of this is sidereal versus
Mm.
tropical astrology. I used to get upset because people, and you kind of did it too, but I get what you mean, so I'm
Right.
not upset. They'll be like, I'm a Taurus. Okay, that's a whole system.
Mm.
Everyone has
Oh, you just muted yourself, buddy. There
cusp or a different house, but we all have the same 12 houses.
you go. Mm.
You are a person, you're a soul having a human experience. And so before you get into what sign am I, you got to realize you're a person and you just have these particular placements.
True.
You get what I mean?
Right.
But and so I do go off on tangents. So I may have lost what your original
Oh,
question
it's all right.
was.
No, tangents are the name of the game here, my friend. And I guess as people consider astrology or numerology or any other divinatory practice like you had mentioned, these are all great tools. But it's kind of like it sounds like what you're saying is what most of my favorite astrologers or numerology people say is that like take this as a tool, but you don't need to shape your entire identity around it because it's just like one piece of the puzzle. But in the end, you are the creator and you have to work with these tools to determine what kind of human experience you're going to have as this soul incarnate. And I was curious if you had anything to respond to that, because there's a lot of tools and I think people might get confused if they start studying all of them.
You want like insight into which part? I'm sorry.
So let's talk about this for example. So I'm pretty sure my life path is 11. Like, I add up I'm born April 28th, 1995. I'm pretty sure, you
Oh
calculate
wow.
your life path, you add it all up and it equals 11. Um so maybe you can dispel some myths because I hear people make blanket statements about certain life path numbers and maybe you have a different point of view.
So if you didn't know, I have membership in a numerology group
Mhm.
on Twitter. Is run by Gary Greenberg, Gary the Numbers Guy. Um, and so I definitely appreciate all of the knowledge that I've gained for him. I do credit him and his group and members in his group with helping me wake up in this particular lifetime. Um, but to dispel rumors, um, I will say that you have to understand first, like I said with the astrology, that you are a soul, that you are a being. If you have a soul, you are a being trying to gain experience, gain knowledge, and knowledge is synonymous with light. So you're trying to gain light on a particular area so that you can evolve and you can learn a lesson so you don't have to continue living out certain things. So when you talk about numerology, this goes to back what I was saying. You don't want to just consider the path. You need to consider the day that you're born, the tools. So
Mhm.
you'll have someone who's 11 life path, and they may be born on a completely different day. So in my opinion, in my experience, by doing readings and whatnot, you'll see that everybody who has that path are not doing the same things to proceed on their path. So you on the 28th, that breaks down to a one, 2 plus 8 is 10, breaks down to one. You're going to have a more of a pioneering leadership type of aggressive type of path versus someone who might be on the seven, born on a 7 day. Those people may lead a life where it's more passive, more solitary, less of a leadership role. It just depends.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think the reason why you're seeing this explosion of misinformation is people are just trying to get paid. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure. And I want to echo the shout out, the GG33 community. I'm not a part of it, but I definitely am looking and I'm paying attention to a lot of the information being shared, especially. And this is another fun topic. We talked about tropical. There's also the Chinese zodiac, and I've been trying to learn more about the pigs because I was born in 95, year of the pig, and all my close friends around me were all born in 95. So we've been trying to look into this some more. Would you like to share any insights you've got about pigs and maybe about you know again, I know blanket statements don't always work because like not every pig is alike, but what would you like to share maybe to open people up to the idea of the Chinese zodiac system, which might not get as much attention as our typical Western astrology?
Okay. So when you deal with um tropical or sidereal astrology, you're dealing with celestial bodies that are outside of the earth, outside of this realm. I do believe we're in a dome, but for conversation purposes, when you're dealing with the sun, the moon, or any other celestial body, you're dealing with the transits of those particular celestial bodies.
Mm,
When you're dealing with Chinese astrology, you're dealing with the energy of the earth, which is why it's so much more accurate.
mm,
So you're going to get so Chinese is it's a whole rope. It's a whole rabbit hole. But when you deal with Chinese astrology or Eastern astrology, so you have a particular vibration that is being produced by the Earth for a year, a month, a day, whatever. That's going to be infinitesimally more accurate than Mars transit. Just an example, because Mars is so much distance away from Earth. Yeah,
right.
it's going to have an impact on you because Mars was a certain position when you incarnate into your body, but it's still going to be less of an effect than whatever day, month, year, whatever's going on Earth. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
the
that
Mars energy is more subtle because it's so far, but Earth is the here and now, so it definitely has a more profound effect, I could see.
your body is made up of Earth. So of
Right.
course, the vibration of the Earth is going to have a more significant effect than the impact of even the sun or the moon or any other celestial body.
Right on. Okay, that's a cool breakdown. And I guess as far as people's Chinese zodiac sign goes, I mean, there's a lot to learn. I mean, even in the year 2023, there's confusion. I know this is a fun topic. Some people think it's the year of the rabbit. Some people say it's the year of the cat. I was wondering if you wanted to weigh in with your 2 cents on that.
So I'm glad you asked me that because it actually builds upon what I was saying
Mm-hmm.
as far as picking a system. If you choose a system, and this is going to be controversial, if you choose a system and you follow it all the way through, it's going to give you the same result. For example, and I'll jump to tropical versus sidereal, and then
Mm-hmm.
jump back to the cat versus the rabbit. If you look in your chart, your tropical chart, you're saying your sun sign is Taurus. Do you know what degree it is?
I don't know the degree, but
Okay,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay, but I would assume that you're probably a sidereal Aries.
Mm,
So you're not, and the only reason why when you read about Taurus it resonates so much more to you is because you learn that first,
mm-hmm.
and then more than likely most people haven't studied the mythology. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So when you
absolutely.
Yeah. So when you look at what happens with Chinese astrology or any other form of divination system, you have to study the culture and you have to study the mythology around X, Y, and Z.
Mm,
So in China, um, that's another part. I don't want to go too deep about like the map and how inaccurate it is and the
mm,
timelines and stuff like that. But there was a time when the Chinese did have a cat as the fourth son. Now that culture or that tradition has been kept up with the Vietnamese. So if you look at the Vietnamese uh, zodiac, they have a cat. So in the GG33 schoolhouse, they teach to follow the cat
mm-hmm.
based off of observations of people born in those years and observations of things that happen in those years. So I personally don't don't care which one it is. You know, you need to focus on what's going on with you, because at the end of the day, nothing trumps your own energy, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Right on, right on. I like that. Cool, man. Well, that's a great way to kind of bring a neutral perspective because there's a lot of learning that could happen in the center. If you identify
Exactly.
too far on one side, on one spectrum, you might get a little tunnel vision. So I appreciate that very much. And I want to ask you now, you've got quite a lot to offer. So I'm pulling up you've got this menu here. Let's talk about some of these. You got the ancestor veneration, you've got light absorption for beginners. That sounds interesting. There's also spiritual parents and synastry reading. I know I just listed off a bunch. So
Yeah.
up for people who are unfamiliar, how would you describe some of these services that you offer to people?
So this is a good time to give gratitude and credit to my teachers.
Mm,
Um, we all come from a certain lineage or line of thinking where we can give credit to somebody. We all, you know that quote, we stand on the giants of people that came before us.
shoulders of
Anybody
giants.
that's
Yeah.
saying, yeah, yeah, what did I say?
Something about giants. They got kind of cut off, but yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
You're good.
Um, so I come from the lineage. So Brother Yosef on YouTube, New Life Tools is his YouTube. Indra Ali, he has a YouTube, and of course, Dr. Mitchell Gibson. He has a YouTube, but his website tybro.com, tybro.com. Those are the people that I take most of my lessons from. And so when I offer a service, doing my best to help people evolve in the way that they taught me and where I've evolved in like growing and building off their information. And so I'll start with ancestor veneration. That's the I would say that's the foundation of any type of spiritual growth, in my opinion. When you start to wake up, you start to realize that you've incarnated on Earth. You should probably, in my opinion, start to look for where's your help, where's your reinforcements,
Mm,
and so you're not going to get a better set of reinforcements on the astral plane than your own ancestors. When you start to understand the ancestors are inside of your body, you can take it another way. But until you get to that knowing, not just belief, but when you know that, you can take it a different way. But to start off, I always say that you should start working with your ancestors, because that is the only way where you're going to be able to um, deal with that initial karma
mm,
that you've inherited. So ancestor veneration is not something that's new. Is I mean, it's well known across the eastern countries. Of the Chinese have the ceremony or Day of the Hungry Ghost. There's the Day of the Dead in Mexico and
right.
Latin countries to honor the dead, because they have not forgotten that we are them and they are us. And when we take care of them, we'll be able to dispel negative karma and do what we're actually sent here to do, correct past mistakes and whatnot. So that the ancestor veneration package, it gives you the basics. Some you can find in books, others you cannot because it's personal experience.
Right.
Um, but that's what that's about. Like absorption, that has to do with the various methods, because you got to understand you have your physical body, but you also have your light body.
Mm,
And so the way that I try to describe this, an improvement on the spiritual path, is your dream control. And so most people, they say, well, I don't dream, which is false. Everybody dreams every
they
night.
just don't remember.
Correct. They don't have the ability to bring those memories back with them. So your body leaves. This is what I do. And most awakened dreamers, if not all awakened dreamers, what they do, they go to sleep and they go to wherever they're called to,
Mm,
um, most times. But you don't recall this because you don't your light body, your astral body is weak, and you have to feed it uh, spiritual energy or light energy. So that package shows someone how to get started. Like, what do I need to do? What supplements can I take? What prayers can I pray? What mudras can I do? I just go into the basics of that.
Hmm. When you
And
take on
that will help.
clients, if I just can quickly ask, do you work like if I was your client, could I approach you and tell you about a dream I just recently had? Is that something you like to work people or to work with people on?
Absolutely.
So I just had a
Mhm.
very eerie dream this morning. I definitely like to bring it up because tonight there's the Super Bowl. There's also like strange, ominous conspiracies about like some big event that's going to go down today,
Mhm.
Sunday, February 12th, 2023. And I had a very strange dream before getting up this morning. I was sent back to a very familiar intersection in my hometown back in Connecticut. And it was like a
A
bright blue
crossroads.
sky, just like it is today here in Dallas, Texas. And there was a very strange, ominous noise. Like if anyone has seen the most recent episode of the HBO series West World, there's this tower that makes this very strange noise, and it's like a this tower is like a mind control device. But anyway, that's kind of the noise that I could hear. And I was just sitting in my car, looking up at the bright blue sky, having a very ominous feeling like something's coming. And I'm about to pull onto this road through this intersection that goes onto this very open highway area. And it was a very quick dream. It was like a flash of this insight almost, but the sound was very ominous. It left me with a very ominous feeling. And I think it all ties together to tonight, the Super Bowl Sunday, and anything related to those ideas we just mentioned. I was curious if you had any insight or comments on that.
Just from what you said, whenever you're dealing with crossroads, it's about a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've also been hearing about February 12th. I don't know what it's about, but what my gut tells me, what my intuition tells me, is that the time where you can dig your head in the sand, the time where you can ignore, the time where you can pretend something isn't happening is over or is coming to a close. Something's about to happen to where you will have to pick a side or pick a road to go down.
Mm.
You won't be able to be like, that's happening to them. I'm just gonna mind my business. No, you're gonna have to be like, I'm going to stand for this or I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to go down this road or I'm not going to go down this road. That's what I think is happening definitely this year. And I don't know if the 12th is going to be the day. Today's going to be the day where people are exposed to something where they're not going to be able to deny it. So that's what your dream talks sounds like.
Yeah.
But with dreams, you have to understand all your dreams are real. All the timelines are real. If you can imagine it is real. So wherever you went, your brain was trying to say, or your another aspect of yourself was trying to say, hey, get ready. It's coming to your version of Earth. Get ready for this. The clear skies makes me think that you already know. It makes me think that you already have a clear insight
Mm.
to what you need to be do, what you need to do. The fact that your car wasn't moving makes me think that you haven't done everything you need to do to get moving. There's a little bit of hesitation to put the foot on the gas. So that's what I get just from that. Um,
That's
so
very
yeah,
fascinating, man. And, I can tie it to my personal life for sure, but also, I'm sure you've been seeing stories. We've got obviously like the infamous quote unquote Chinese spy balloon that flew over the US, and then there was something shot down in Alaska, and then last night in Montana, and now today, I don't know if you saw this in Michigan, they're closing airspace. So we've got a lot of
really,
events unfolding. Yeah, Michigan airspace. I mean, maybe since we started talking, it opened up. Uh, it looks like I'm just pulling up Twitter really quick, and it looks like the I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in the sky, and how cool would that be if there was some kind of aerial phenomenon today over the Super Bowl, like the biggest public spectacle of the entire year so far. Not to like
hmm.
bring in like Project Bluebeam stuff and all that, but it's pretty interesting. What do you think about that?
I like to believe um, they've been here for the longest time. Like
Long time.
whoever is going to appear has already been here. Did you watch the movie? Let me just ask you this: have you seen the movie Nope?
Nope. Yeah, that's an awesome film. Jordan Peele is a mastermind director. I love him.
Right, right. In my opinion, he was trying to let you know that the beings that are on this planet, they can hide from you at will.
In the
They can
clouds.
hide egg, the clouds, underwater,
Hmm.
in plain sight. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, if they choose to reveal themselves, it's because it's time. Humanity, if you, and I don't know how deep you have gone into this research, but humanity is basically we're supposed to become the new gods of the universe. And so before I tweeted this out maybe a couple of days ago, where I was trying to, or I told people that humanity is older than the physical realm.
Mm.
Humanity existed on higher planes of existence before we were bought down. We got a little bit too what's the word, big for our britches, as my
Mm.
grandmother would say, and we got knocked down to show us that hey, we still have work to do.
So when
So
people
you
describe
have
fallen
being.
angels, they could be just describing humanity.
I would disagree. Uh, fallen. Okay, so okay, they're just angels.
Mm.
Um, you have angels who are described as demons, but they're just angels as well.
Mm.
Um, they're the same. These are just titles. They're the same being or opposite spectrums of existence,
Right.
opposite
Yeah.
beings on the tree of life. But humanity, we were at a high state, and there are beings who want to see humanity become the new gods of the universe, and then you have beings who don't want to see that happen, and then you have beings who are neutral, or certain things are predestined to happen. And so, one of the things, the most powerful things that the powers that be have done here is made you believe that they're in control of everything. And in my opinion, and from observation, that is not true. And so, whatever is revealed is going to happen. There's nothing that anybody can do about it. The only thing that could be perhaps be done is they could put a spin to it. And that kind of goes back to your dream where you're going to see something. Are you going to let people tell you what you saw? Or are you going to listen to yourself
Mm.
internally and make a decision for yourself and make a move as a result of that?
Right on, man. Right on. That is a really cool idea, and I think it dispels a lot of the fear that one might have about what a dream could be telling them. But it brings me back to a centered place where it's like, all right, I mean, this crossroad is really it's my decision what I'm gonna do. But the spiritual allies, like my ancestors and so on, are here to guide me with certain messaging like that. So it's pretty interesting. And I wanted to ask you, I'm not sure if you're prepared for this, so if it's not going to be feasible, then we can talk about something else. But you did offer to give me a personal reading, and I've done things like this on the show before. I had a Western tropical astrologer come on and break down parts of my chart. It's a pretty cool method of showing people your talents and what they could expect if they were to become your student or to work with you. So I'm curious, would you like to go through that reading now? And if you don't, then I certainly have other questions that I'd like to get to. But what do you think, my friend?
So I've done that before,
Mm.
not on camera, and because I refer to as a fully activated throat chakra, especially when the because I see spirits, I hear things, and sometimes spirit is telling me say it to them just like this, and I've done that, and I've embarrassed people, and I've hurt people's feelings. So I'd rather not do that. I
Sure.
haven't looked at it yet,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to say something that'll embarrass
No, it's
you,
totally
and
fine.
then
Yeah, man.
like, why did you tell me that?
Yeah, no. Well, it's kind of funny. Maybe I can ask you about the eighth house in particular, because when I got
Okay.
my reading, I know the eighth house deals a lot with like death and money and shared projects, and it could be like a very occulted type of house. And I know they're the reading that I got recently was all about, well, it wasn't all about, but it definitely highlighted the fact that, if your sun and your moon are both in the eighth house, so sun in Taurus, moon in Aries in the eighth house, there's it could be a lot of turbulence with death, with financial matters and occult knowledge and things like that. I was curious if you had a comment about that house in particular and how people might work with it in their own reading.
When you look at the eighth house, it's about yes, it's death, but I think people get caught up in the physical
Mhm.
death. Are you familiar with the three types of Scorpio?
Three types of Scorpio. No, this sounds interesting.
So you got the actual scorpion, then you have the eagle, and then you
Mm,
have the phoenix. So there's like three Scorpios. The eighth house ruled by what you call Mars and Pluto,
mm.
and Scorpio's natural home. I tell people to pay attention to just rebirth. Don't worry about how you may die physically or anything like that. Just what is your rising sign? Because you can't look at it.
Virgo.
Virgo. Okay, Mercury ruled. You have the sun in the eighth house.
Sun in the eighth house, and my Aries is my moon sign, also in the eighth house.
Were you were you born on a new moon?
Yeah, it was right around the eclipse back in 95. I can't remember if it was a lunar eclipse
You
or
were
not.
born on an eclipse.
Right around the same time as an eclipse. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that your chart is going to be interesting to read.
Cool.
But when, just just keeping it basic for the show,
Mm,
I would say just focus on being on not getting stuck on any particular level.
right.
Continue to evolve when it comes to your emotions and who you are as a person. Um, and most of the time, that's not going to be something that you opt into. It's going to be well. Let's zoom all the way out. There, in my opinion, um, and the readings, astral travel. I know that you pick your life before you get here. So the package that there's no free will. I know people don't like to hear that, but there's no free will. Like your free will existed before you got here. But
Mm,
once you are in the suit, that's it. You just plan out what you pick in the suit. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So you opted for a package where you are not going to be um, on any particular level for any extended period of time. You're going to continue to be challenged until you you're going to have to continue to pick the higher path. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm,
whenever you get to a place where you feel like you've plateaued, or you may even not even feel like you've plateaued, you're going to be challenged to reinvent yourself and continue to go higher. And if you don't, there's going to be negative consequences because the longer you sit in a place, you've seen that meme where the dog is sitting there in hell. He's like, "Oh, this is fine."
oh yeah, yeah. It's like everything's burning
That's
around him. He's like, yeah, no big deal. This is fine.
that's going to be you if you don't heed the cues that the universe has for you. And
It's
that
true.
dream sounds like one of them. It's like if you don't push this gas here soon, something's coming for you.
Right.
So get moving. And that's going to be your life. You said an Aries moon or a
Aries
Taurus moon?
moon. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, I need to read that. Yeah, you definitely need to be on the lookout for the universe speaking to you and be prepared to make those leaps
Mm,
um, whenever you see those cues.
right on, man.
Do you practice any divination system?
Yeah, I mean, I really love looking into well, medical astrology is something I want to look more into. But just like all facets of astrological study, tarot. My friend's been introducing me to the Enneagram and a lot of the alignments and correspondences there. And I think in general, just having a symbolic understanding in a divinatory practice is really fun because the symbols can be seen everywhere. And if you're looking at the I Ching or the tarot or even like different tarot decks, like Crowley or Thoth deck
Mm.
versus Rider Waite, all that, like the symbolism is fascinating. So I try to dip my toes into a bunch, but I'd really like to do a more in-depth study on the tarot in particular because I know the tarot has a lot of cool alignments and correspondence with astrological systems and truths. So yeah.
Okay, that's real powerful. I mean, you can definitely evolve with that.
Mhm.
But as long as you have some type of way to tap in to the universe, and you may not even need that. Certain people, because really the divination systems are training wheels for your intuition.
Mm.
So if you may not even some evolved souls that come here. I mostly see this with your older souls, your nine life paths, your 22s, your 33s, your 11s. I see people who you try to break down certain metaphysical things to, and they don't take to it. They just know, like they know
Mm.
already. You know what I mean? So
They
they
don't
don't
need
need
convincing.
definition.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like so you try to put them onto numerology or astrology, but like, oh, I'm not really into that, but I just know.
Mm.
So,
I've
but
seen
yeah,
that
once you
happen. Yeah.
exercise your, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I got a
yeah,
33 life path friend. He's like one of my closest friends, and he says like, "Oh, I don't really believe in that, or I don't really care about that." But he like the way that he manifests himself in his personal life and his business life and his romantic life, it all aligns to these things that we talk
exactly.
about. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like you don't need to believe it. It's just it's something that's there, and it's whether or not you're going to pay attention to it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, yeah, because the average soul on Earth is about 50,000 years old. So when you get to the point where you're 33 life path, you've come here and you're like, I know this stuff already. I'm just here to teach y'all.
Nice.
So
Right on, man. Well, I have a question. As we kind of wrap up towards the end, I really want to ask you in particular about the ancestors because when you were speaking about that earlier, I was imagining this really awesome pop culture reference. Maybe you know the TV show Avatar: The Last
that is
Airbender.
my favorite show.
Yeah, yeah, man. I had a feeling. So what like that show is full of wisdom, and I mean it I'm 27 years old. Like I was just a small child when that was released, and it
Hmm.
was full of insights. So one thing I really like is that the Avatar learns to connect with his ancestors, and he realizes that all of his innate power and wisdom and abilities are all tied to the spiritual allies that exist within him. And it's his
Hmm.
ability to tap into that ancient timeline or that ancient, DNA strand that carried out throughout generations and eons that he's able to access powers and guidance and things of that nature. So maybe you can share what could people expect if they want to work with you, and maybe even in your own personal practice, whatever you're comfortable sharing. Like, how do you personally connect to your ancestors if you were given a chance to explain that?
I connect with my ancestors through the altar. Some people don't necessarily have the space or the resources to put one up, but that's the way that I've been blessed to communicate. When you're dealing with your ancestors through the altar, you give them, I'll just say a home
Mm,
within your home, a method to reaching out to you. So I go through the altar. Um, I go through uh, the things that they like. Like if I've known them personally, or if some of their closer loved ones are still here, I ask them like, "Hey, what did they like?" So I give them what they like. I give them vices. So you had and that's something that people need to understand. You're dealing with, especially in the past 100, 200 years, you're dealing with a being who is maybe not the most high vibrational.
mm,
So they're still going to have some vices. So like they're alcoholic here, they're probably going to be still have that addiction when they pass over. If
mm,
they smoke cigarettes here, they're probably going to like cigarettes when they still. That's why it's called the afterlife. They are still living, just not. They don't have a body here in the 3D.
mm,
And so I give them vices. I give them ancestor money. I give them meals. I acknowledge their birthdays. I acknowledge the day that they died. And through time, if you continue to be consistent with your offerings, they will eventually get to the place where they can visit you in their dreams. So you gotta understand. when an ancestor passed away, they spent their last 80 years or so um, in Christianity or Islam, or not in any type of energy work, any type of spiritual practice. They're probably going to a very low um, place in the afterlife. They may even go to the second dimension. They may go to a hell state. They
Mm,
may go to a place where they don't even realize that they're dead. And so you this is the thing about altar magic. You, depending on your level of consciousness, the quality of your offerings, quality meaning the objects or things that you're giving, and your intent, it depends on how long it's going to take your altar to get what's called ashe, or power.
mm.
And so once you got a good altar going, you're going to be able to get your whatever you're offering to them quicker, and they'll be able to come to you. Sometimes they'll come to you in your dream. So most of my clients, when they have given their first offering, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw my grandmother, or I saw my uncle. They came to me in a dream. I don't know what it's about." More than likely, they were just coming to say thank you. Like, hey, you get to the next realm, you still need food, clothing, and shelter. You still need a place to live. You need all of that stuff. And so if you don't give them those offerings, who are they going to get from? You get what I mean? And so I do it like that. I communicate with my ancestors by way of prayer. That's another thing you could do, um, preferably in another language.
Mm.
But that's pretty much what I do, is just communicating the author. Have the same way you would develop a relationship with a person,
Right.
you develop this relationship with that spirit. And when you're dealing with an ancestor maybe you never met, consider it like somebody that you never, like a distant cousin. Like, over time, if, let's say, and this is what one of my teachers told me, if you have a family member who's incarcerated, y'all don't really know each other, it's not going to matter, because you're the only person sending him something. So eventually, even if he didn't like you or she didn't like you, they're eventually going to develop a affinity for you, because you're the only person doing things for them.
Yeah,
And
man.
when they get to a point where they can help you out, that's exactly what they're going to do.
Nice. That's a very karmic approach, and it's pretty cool that the altar is like a way to welcome in your ancestors, offer them safety and nourishment, and a comfortable environment. And now I'm thinking about it. Back in October, my father passed, and I've got all these photos of him
I'm sorry to hear that.
scattered. Thank you, my friend. I want to put them all in one area and kind of create like that space for him, and it's pretty cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
with my father, we've really bonded over music. Like he showed me a lot of his
Mm-hmm.
favorite uh classic rock, like Jimi Hendrix and Van Morrison, and he really loved
Right.
all that classic music. So sometimes on the radio or wherever, like those same songs will pop up, and it probably sounds cliche, but it's like, yeah, man, that's like, I feel like he's coming through. He's like just saying hello, being like, hey, I'm still out there, or I'm still in here, pointing to my physical body. And yeah,
Right.
it's pretty interesting. I definitely want to take what you've offered, and try to apply it. Um, and I appreciate you going into detail about that, especially when you say that it's your intention and your energy that develops the real potency, or the real um, nature of this altar, and how it might be helping and healing your ancestry and your ancestral line. And that kind of brings me up to a different point. When people talk about ancestral trauma, like I know on my other side, my mother's side, she comes from a Jewish family, and her
Okay.
relatives went through Auschwitz. And I'm curious, like when
Oh, wow.
people, yeah, like when, or like any people who go through that kind of difficulty and violence and things like that, they start to talk about or think about or research ancestral trauma. And I'm curious how you would approach that kind of topic, and maybe certain tools or suggestions that you have for people looking into that.
Um, I would say the best way to deal with ancestral trauma is to zoom all the way out.
Mhm.
Um, Humanize these people, no matter what side of the proverbial fence they are.
Right.
Humanize them, because if the average soul on Earth is 50,000 years old, That means at some point you did what they did in some way, shape, or fashion. So you either suffered to the extent that they did, or you tortured to the extent that they did. But you want to zoom all the way out and understand that they needed that experience for whatever reason for the evolution of their soul. So I'll give a sample prayer for what I sell. I always tell people to say, um, thank you for forgiving me for any negative karma that has been formed between us. That is something that, because what people forget is that most of the time, because most of the time you incarnate through your own bloodline,
Mm,
most of the time, the trauma that is experienced was perpetrated by you. So
right.
you come back to either relive that or to recreate. I mean to fix that or just to feel what it is to have been on the other end. You get what I'm saying? There are no innocent souls here.
Mm,
So when you're dealing with trauma, um, I would say the zoom out, make your apologies for whatever your part of it was, um, humanize and empathize with what their experience might have been. Because I do hear some spiritual teachers talking about, well, you should be careful which ancestors you interact with because they weren't all good people. And I'm like,
mm.
there aren't any good people here.
Yeah,
What,
it's
what
a
do you
slippery
mean?
slope for sure.
So make your donations as normal if you want to do something special. So like if you have someone who's a part of some type of Holocaust or trauma on whatever day that is, if you know when they died, if you know when the let's say the National Day of Remembrance
Mm,
for a certain thing is, I will make a special offer for that. Um, but yeah, man, like just try to keep that heart chakra open,
yes, sir.
because the ancestors know, the gods know, whatever deity that you're dealing with, you can't fool them. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So if you have someone who's making an offering, they got this 12 course meal, you know what I mean? But they heart ain't in it versus someone they giving a bologna sandwich, but they giving it with a full heart. That's going to be all the difference.
Well said, man. Well said. I really appreciate that. And, you've given me a lot to think about. And my final question for you today, some people view Earth, this incarnation, this existence, some people view it as a prison. I view it as a school. And I'm curious where
Mm.
you stand and if, in your opinion, um, what is the best way that we go through this school? How do we make sure that we can learn what we're meant to learn while we're still here and then pass that on to the next incarnation? What do you think?
Pay attention that's a good question. And it is all about perspective. It goes
Mm,
into like the frivolous debates about flat earth versus round earth. I mean, we all have our opinions or whatever. At the end of the day, you have to focus on what you're here to do, which is to evolve. All of the signs and symbols that has been playing throughout your life are telling you where you're supposed to be headed. That's one of the main reasons why they try to keep you institutionalized through school, why they try to put you in jobs, why they try to get you to watch every TV show or play whatever video games, because they're trying to keep you distracted because the universe will speak to you in whatever way you want as long as it's something that you resonate with. You know what I mean? That's why I was trying to say earlier about like it doesn't matter what divination system you use.
mm,
If you say, you know what, universe, I'm only going to listen to you if you speak to me through tea leaves. The next thing you know, you're gonna start seeing messages through tea leaves. If you say, nah, I want you to speak to me through nature. Next thing you know, you're gonna start seeing different birds, different animals. Like you look up what they mean, is no matter what system, the message is going to be the same. And so I'll leave you. I'll leave you with this. There's no greater authority than self. Like, don't get caught up in what other people got to say. Don't get caught up in um, whatever teacher, whatever's popular. Listen to yourself. Listen to your own spirit. It's, it takes some time because you've been listening to noise for decades now. Most of us have been. And so you just got to get to a point where you're disciplined enough to get somewhere quiet and hear that voice. It's telling you the same thing. It's been telling you since same thing since you were born. So just trust yourself.
Love that, man. That still small voice within us. It's getting louder and louder as life goes on. And
For
oh man,
sure.
I appreciate all these insights. And what a way to start this day. I mean, I don't know what time zone you're in, but I'm gonna, it's about almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Dallas, Texas, and I feel like full of energy, and I appreciate you sharing your insights, man. I'm gonna go get some sunshine for sure. But I want to let people know on Twitter your handle. So Agatanahi Uktena. I said it right.
Yes.
True. Okay. So that would be on Twitter. I'm obviously gonna have this in the show description, but if you want to find it, it's at Agatanahi Uktena. You've got the sweet dragon emoji next to you. It's badass, my
I'm one of a
friend.
kind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate everything, man. If you ever want to come back on the show, you're welcome anytime. And before we say our final goodbye, anything else you want to leave our wonderful audience with today?
Oh yeah, you can find me there. My Gumroad products, and you can, if you have any questions, you can DM me, and either I can answer your question on the spot, or we can book a consultation if you want to go deeper. But that's pretty much it. And I just give all my gratitude to the universe, the universal prime creator, my spiritual parents, my ancestors, my higher self.
Amen to that, my friend. I'm looking forward to following up with you on the reading. And till then, may the ancestors guide us. And I wish everyone health and prosperity forever and ever. Adios, my friend.